A warm welcome, the Italian Dev here. In today's video we are gonna see how to properly display a background image using the Next.js image component. If you like this type of content, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's go straight into the code. Let's start by creating a brand new Next.js application. So open your terminal and type the command npx create next app, and let's give a name like background image. Press enter and wait for all the dependency to be installed. Now that all the dependencies are successfully installed, navigate inside the newly created folder and open this project inside your editor of choice. I'm gonna use Visual Studio Code. So code dot. I usually start by removing all the boilerplate code and files that I don't need. So open the styles folder and let's remove this home.module.css file. Then, inside this global CSS that contains all the global CSS rules that are imported in our Next.js project through the _app.js, that is the component that wraps our entire web application. As you can see, this import on the top right here. So let's go back to globals.css, remove all the code, the CSS code inside. And what I do, I usually navigate to meyerweb.com/eric/tools/css/reset. This is the personal blog of Eric Meyer. And here I found, and this is the CSS code that I always use, the most complete CSS reset. So to reset, as you can see right here, all the browser inconsistencies in things like default line heights, margin, font size, and so on. So just grab this code and paste here inside the global.css. So we can now move inside the page folder, index.js, and let's start by deleting this add import. This file doesn't exist anymore, and we can just leave this import image from next image, through which we import inside our default function home the image component. That is the component that will allow us to display in a performant way our background image in our web application. As you know, the image component is a component built directly from the Next.js team, and it has a lot of, let's say, built-in features that allow us to achieve really great scores in what Google calls Core Web Vitals. Core Web Vitals are not only an important metrics to measure the user experience on our website, but they are really, really important. And let me underline this concept, are really important because are considered by Google as a factor in the rankings of Google search. So you need to pay a lot of attention at the Core Web Vitals when you are creating a website that needs to go to production. So, as I said, thanks to the image component, we can deliver a really performant website from the image point of view, and also it has the capability to prevent the cumulative layout shift automatically. And the cumulative layout shift is what is known with the acronym of CLS, and is one of the factor that is taken into consideration by the Core Web Vitals metrics. Said that, let's remove all this code that is inside the home function, and for now just return a div with the h1 tag element inside saying hello world. Now, before to start our development server, let's bring in our project the image that we want to show as background image. You can choose the image you want or you like most. For this tutorial, I've chosen this image, and all the credit goes to, I hope to pronounce it well, and sorry Vladislav if I'm wrong, to Vladislav Sokolovsky. I will leave this link, so to credit him, in the description down below. And so all the credit to this amazing piece of art goes to Vladislav. If you download this image from Unsplash, it will be downloaded with the JPEG extension, but I want to use the .webp compression in our application, so to have the most performant extension right now to use in developing web application. If I'm not wrong, as JPEG, this image is around 5 megabytes. After compressing it to .webp, it is around 900 kilobytes. So this image goes directly into the public folder. This is the folder that Next.js use to serve all the static assets. Now that everything is correctly set up, we can open the integrated terminal and type the command npm run dev, so to fire up a development server that will serve our web application at localhost port 3000. So let's navigate to localhost port 3000, and as you can see, our hello world h1 tag is correctly showing on the DOM, and as you can see, the CSS is successfully reset thanks to the code we copied from the Eric website, because there are no margin and no padding. So now we can start to work on showing a background image in a Next.js application using the image component. So let's start simply deleting this boilerplate code and trying to return from this home function directly an image component. Because we want our image component to take all the available space, and as of now, this image component will be mounted directly in the main component in which our Next.js application will be rendered. So we can start passing the props that this component needs. First of all, let's pass the source prop. This property tells to the image component from which take the image. As I said before, Next.js uses the public folder to serve static assets. So we can just type here / because we are already inside the static assets, because Next.js is aware to look there, and type pg.webp, that is the name plus the extension of our file. Then we can simply add the alt property, and let's type mountains with snow. And then we can start to pass some property that are strictly related to the image component provided by Next.js. One of them is layout, and this can be equal to fill, fixed, intrinsic, or responsive. I'm gonna choose fill. And why? Because the fill option is telling to this component to take all the available space in width and the height of the parent container. Before I said that returning just the image component, we are gonna mount this component inside here. That is the main div in which our Next.js application render its component on the DOM. So it means that saying layout fill, we are telling to this image to take the viewport width, the viewport height, and also to resize accordingly of the window sizes. Now the last prop that we need to pass is the object fit, that in difference of the layout that tells how much space take from the parent component, the object fit tells to this image how to fit inside the parent container. And here we're gonna pass cover. As of now, we can just save. We can or restart the terminal or just refresh the page and wait a bit. And as you can see, the image is correctly showing in the, let's say for now, the background that is taking, as I said, all the width and all the height of its parent component, that in this case is the body component, so it's simply taking the viewport width and viewport heights and is resizing accordingly. So far so good. Nothing tricky seems to we have done as of now, but let's put ourselves in the most common case scenario in which we have a background image with an element on the top. Could be a text, something else, but let's say we want the text showing up inside this image. Let's try to simply return an h1, but before we need that it's mandatory to wrap both of them in a root element, in this case an empty fragment, or it could be just a div, because a function needs just to return one root element. And under this image component, we can insert an h1 tag saying Next.js background image, image tutorials. Now let's go back to our browser and let's see what's going on there. If I refresh, and you always remember that development server is always a little bit slower than the production, we can also remove the little bit, it's lower than production, and this flickering before the image correctly loads show us that our h1 tag is showing below this background image. And if we open the developer tools and expand the main div in which our Next.js application is being mounted, as you can see, the h1 tag is correctly inside our app, but the problem that is showing below this image. So what we can think, okay, let's give to this image a z-index that is less or negative than the h1. So in this way, the image will be below the text and not the other way around. So we can go back to Visual Studio Code. We know that, let me close the Explorer so to have more space. We know that we cannot style directly our image component. So what we can do, we can wrap it inside the div and pass all the style to this div. I'm gonna use inline style for this tutorial, so to have the code all in this tab without creating a CSS file and so on and then moving back and forth. So what we can say, we said let's give a z-index of what? Remember, this is an object, so we need key value pair, not an equal but column, and let's give a -1, comma, save, and go back to the browser. Let's see. Nothing seems changing, but the z-index -1 is correctly being passed to the div that is wrapping the image component, but the problem that this is not working fine. Well, the solution is Next.js documentation said to us that once we use the layout field to the image component, we need to be sure that the image component is relative to its container. So it's relative to its parent element. So now we have this complete element, and let's make it relative to its parent container that as of now is this main div. So we can achieve this result by just saying position and pass the option of fixed. So it gives a fixed position to our image component and also makes it relative to its parent component. Let's save and let's see what happened. Oops, the image now disappeared. As you can see, let me refresh to be sure, we have just the h1 tag and this div element that is wrapping our image component. We have the code, but it's not showing inside the DOM. Well, why? Let's see, look, we have dimension 0 times 0, because giving a fixed position, now this div has no width and no height. So we can solve this going back to the code and saying width, let me add the comma, is equal to 100% of viewport width, comma, height is 100% of viewport height. Let's save, and now everything should work fine. Look, we have our h1 tag correctly showing above our image, and now this image is correctly a background image, and it resizes accordingly to the viewport height and width. We can toggle also the responsive mode. This is representing the dimension of an iPhone 12 Pro, and if I just move from portrait to landscape, our image perfectly fits the dimension of the screen. Well, now just let's try to move this text. Look what happened. Back to the code, we are here to the h1 tag, let's style it, passing a style object, and let's say the first thing that we can think, it's okay, let's give it margin top, but look what happened. Let's say 30 pixels just to make it clear, and save, back to our browser, and as you can see, not only the h1 tag is taking 30 pixels from the top, but also the background image is moving accordingly. Because as I said, now everything that is inside here is relative to its parent component. So we can solve this issue instead of passing the margin, passing just the padding. Padding top, let's say, and look what happened. The image keeps stick to the top, bottom, right and left border, so it's taking all the viewport width and height, and only the h1 tag is moving. So let's just finish this tutorial by giving a little bit of style to this h1 tag. Instead of 30 pixels, let's have a 30% of viewport height. Then let's say font, again the comma is missing, the font family monospace, then font size, let's make it 3.5 rem, and font weight bold, and also let's add text align center. Let's save, and look what happened. Now we have a background image with an h1 title showing a ball, and it's completely responsive and it fits to every viewport dimension, and I can show it again in the developer tools. Make it like an iPhone Pro, toggling from portrait to landscape, and everything is working really, really great. And this is everything thanks to the amazing image component given us by Next.js. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you would like to see more in the future, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It will help me a lot. And thank you again for staying here with me. The Italian Dev, bye bye.